This week's Parsha begins with a surprising halacha, the halacha of Eshet Yefat Toar, of a woman who a man meets when going out to war, and the Torah seems to accept this as something that is permissible. A person has relations with her, marries her, takes him into his home. And of course, Chazal famously say, Rashi quotes it, Lo dibra Torah ela keneged yetzer hara. The Torah here is speaking with a recognition of the strong yetzer, will, temptation that a person can have. She'im ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu matira. If Hashem doesn't allow for this kind of situation, Yisena b'Isser, the Torah knows that he'll marry her b'Isser, because the taiva is so strong. This is very surprising. Makes it sound like the Torah permits things because people won't be able to avoid violating them. If it's wrong, the Torah should prohibit it. I think there are two very important points that we're meant to learn from this halacha. The first is that the Torah doesn't prohibit things that we're unable to keep ourselves from doing. Often people feel mitzvot of the Torah very hard to fulfill, averot are very hard to avoid. This precedent shows us that everything else are things we can expect from ourselves. We live in a world where people give credence to whatever feelings, strong impulses they have as not only being acceptable, but being something, the impulse is a sign that it's what I'm supposed to be doing. This is how I'm created. This is what I'm meant to do. The Torah, we know, expects us to control, to harness, to restrain whatever impulses we have. And the fact that when there's something we can't control, the Torah permits it, shows us that what the Torah prohibits is something we can control, and therefore are expected to control. But I think there's another point here, and that's the second part of Rashi. Rashi continues, Avalim Nasa, if you marry her, Sofo liot sona. In the end, you'll end up hating her. Shenemer achrav ki tieno leish, etc. Because the next part of the piece here talks about when a man has two wives and one of them he dislikes. Rashi says it came from this, from the fact that he met her through the way she looked and his taiva during a war. And Rashi continues in the name of Chazal, V'sofa laholid min ben sorer umora. In the end, he'll dislike the child will rebel, and his family life will fall apart. Almost sounds like the vindictive response of the Torah. We're going to permit it, but you're going to suffer terribly from it. And I think it's a little bit different than that. The Torah is teaching us something very important. On the one hand, the Torah doesn't prohibit things we can't be expected to control. On the other hand, not everything that's permitted is something that's good for us. It's something that we're going to benefit from. In fact, there are a lot of things that are permitted that are things we're going to suffer terribly from. And here we learn a very important aspect of the Torah. The Torah prohibits things that are absolutely prohibited. But it also advises us on the things that will benefit us. It doesn't prohibit it. It leaves it up to us to realize that it's a mistake and where it's going to go. And in this particular case, a marriage that's rooted in one's taivos because of the pretty girl he sees at a time of his conquest isn't a marriage that's rooted in a real relationship with a special person, or at least the special aspects of that person. And it could be the Eshet Yefat Torah is a wonderful person, but the basis of his meeting and coming together with her is one that isn't going to allow for a meaningful, sustained relationship that'll be the basis of what a family ought to be. And if a child sees that he's born of a marriage that isn't about values, what values can he be expected to have? The takeaway from all this is, on the one hand, we should realize what the Torah expects from us are things we should expect from ourselves. And number two, beyond the prohibitions, we have to think carefully about the choices we make and the implications of how they impact our lives. And the Torah comes to teach us not just what's prohibited, but what's going to benefit us versus what we'll suffer from. And hopefully we'll make the right choices and build families where our children can emulate the wonderful choices we made that brought them into the world. Shabbat Shalom.